guys, Lynsey here. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day. So today we're in the kitchen. This one's a little different. We are going to bake today, and we're gonna make some chocolate chip muffins. You can have them for breakfast, you can have them for dessert, you can have it as a snack because they're delicious. And I got the recipes from my mother-in-law, and there were many years where I tried to make them by just following the recipe she handed me. And I told her, I was like, mine never turn out as good as yours. Like, what are you doing special? And she kept saying, I don't do anything special. I just follow the recipe. I'm not doing anything special. I'm like, okay, sure. So there was one day I went to her house and I made the muffins like side by side with her. I was like, there's something you're doing, there's just something different, I swear. So we did it side by side, and there were, she had her little tweaks. She had a certain order that she put all of the ingredients in. She has different times where she mixes. It's not just throw it all in and mix. It's not following the instructions to a T. So I'm gonna go ahead and share it. And of course, over the years, I've changed a couple little things here and there, and she has too. I'm also gonna add like one little ingredient that I know she doesn't, and but my husband says he likes it that way because it keeps it moist. So if you wanna just watch, let's have some fun. If you wanna make them along with me, let's go ahead and get some sugar, some all-purpose flour. You need some chocolate chips and vanilla, baking powder, baking soda, brown sugar, 2 eggs, and sour cream. And I think, did I say a stick of butter? Because you need a stick of butter. And I think that's it. And then we're gonna throw in some zucchini. So let's get started. So you're gonna need 2 different bowls, and I guess so I'm gonna stand up. You're not gonna be able to see my face, but no worries, it's all about the baking today. So I've got a smaller bowl here, and then I'm gonna use the bigger one, and this is the one I'll actually use to make the muffin mix in. This one we're gonna use to make the topping, which is like the brown sugar and everything, or as my son calls it, the crunchies. So it's the best part. Okay, so let's get started. So I start with a stick of butter, room temperature, and yes, if you guys can see my son, it's perfectly room temperature, maybe a little softer, and he just likes to go, Mama, I squished it. So there you go, but stick of butter. I use salted. I don't know if that really matters. I'm trying to think. I think I've tried unsalted before, but I've gone back to doing salted. So because I think when you make bread, I feel like the salted works better, whereas when you're making cookies and you want to be a little softer, you use the unsalted butter. So I've put in, and see, this didn't follow the recipe. So I put in 2 tablespoons of butter in my small cup, and then I'm going to dump the rest of that stick into my bigger bowl. And then I'm going to set this to the side. And then, so in this, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon, oops, not sugar, 1 tablespoon of flour. And then you're gonna need a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And it's gonna be packed brown sugar, not just loosely thrown in there, but fully packed in. So fully packed 1/2 cup, maybe a little bit more. Just dump it on in. And then now we're gonna mix it. And the butter being room temperature really is key, because if you melt the butter, it's going to make everything just warm and almost gooey. And you don't want that because then it's not going to cook right. So you either want it to be room temperature, or you can make the topping, you can make the dough, and you can set it in the fridge if you don't have time to bake it, and save it for later. And it's fine to cook that way, but you don't want it fully melted hot butter because it's not going to cook right. So for the topping, I use just mini semi-sweet chocolate chips. And so I don't know how many I put in. It's really going to be your preference. Typically, if you're using all mini chocolate chips, then I would set out 1.5 cups of the mini chocolate chips to use in your batter, and then just pour in the rest into the topping. I have started using the bigger semi-sweet chocolate chips in the muffin mix, mostly because you can get a big bag of those at Sam's. And I make these enough that the big bag is absolutely worth it. So, okay, so you just mix those chocolate chips in, and then I'm gonna set it aside. So nice and mixed. Okay. So now I've got my bowl for the batter. So what we're gonna do is I've got my, 6 tablespoons of butter. And so I'm going to then put in my 2 large eggs. And this is the worst part for me. Well, mostly the worst part, just because I don't like egg goo on me. And I'm not the greatest at cracking eggs. I usually have my husband do it, but he's with the baby right now. I know I call him a baby. He is 3, but he's my baby. Egg number 1. And egg number 2. And then I have to go wash my hands because icky, icky, icky. Alrighty, so at this point I'm gonna go ahead and mix the butter and the eggs together. It will not be perfectly smooth because remember, the butter is not totally melted. It's just maybe a little bit warmer than room temperature. Okie dokie. So now we've got the eggs and the butter, and then we're gonna go in next with 2/3 cup of sugar. My sugar's been a little clumpy lately. Means it's probably got moisture or something in there. Okay. There. Okay. Maybe a little more. It's okay. Your judgment here. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix that sugar in just a little bit. Okay. Alrighty, now we are going to do, we're gonna do 2/3 cup of sour cream. So now, sour cream's so yucky when you stir it up. But just like the sugar, we're gonna do 2/3 cup. And typically, so I'll fill it to the top, but then it'll probably be a little overflowing, which is fine. Sour cream really just, I feel like it just adds like a little moisture, well, or a lot. It makes it just fluffy. I like to get all the sour cream off. All right. And you guessed it, we're gonna mix it. Okay, so we've added in, mostly this has been more like wet ingredients besides the sugar. So now we're going to go ahead and add in, it's going to be 1.5 cups of flour. And it's going to be 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder and 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And this, when my son helps me make the muffins, this is where we typically start making more of a mess when we get the flour. You would think with the eggs and such, but no, we like to get the flour everywhere. Alrighty, and then our baking powder. So I use 1/4 teaspoon, so I put 3 of those in. And 3 of the baking soda. And then go ahead and mix it. I don't mix it all the way till it's fully blended because I'm going to go in and add a teaspoon of vanilla before it's completely blended. Okay, so see it's like kind of, you can see, it's like kind of mixed, but there's also plenty of flour still in there too. Ugh, vanilla's getting low. They used to have one at Sam's that was twice as big as this, and now they've made it half the size for about the same price as the other one was. So I'm a little sad on that. Okay, so we've got it all mixed in. I'm going to set this aside just for a second because I'm going to add zucchini to it. Zucchini is not something you have to add. You can absolutely just make it, like, stop at this point, you know, ignore adding the zucchini completely. This is just something that I have gone in and added separately just because it adds a little bit of a vegetable. And it is something, my husband says it does actually keep them a little moist when we keep them out on the counter, which is nice. Of course, even though these will probably go in the freezer because I did just make a batch earlier this week, but that's okay. If he likes it, I'm gonna keep doing it because it makes me feel better about them having chocolate chip muffins for breakfast almost every day. And yes, I do just grate it with the, just a little tiny, the tiny part of the hand grater. Okay. So let's get all that out of there. All the, well, it's like all stuck on the inside too. Okay, set this aside. And then obviously zucchini is full of liquid. It's just gosh darn full of water. So I'm going to go squeeze most of this out. Just, oh, see, look, it's already gotten all over the counter. So you can see the liquid just comes right out. So I'm gonna go squeeze this over the sink. Okay, so you can see zucchini is much, much, much smaller. So probably about half the size at least once you get all the water out. So I probably won't add all of this. I mean, if you're adding zucchini, it's really up to you. You can add a little bit. You can add none at all. It's really up to you. Dealer's choice. So I'm just gonna throw, I don't know, maybe half a cup. And then I'm gonna set this aside and I will save it the rest of it because that can be a whole nother batch of muffins. Set that back there. Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and use the mixer to mix this in. That's when I usually get something on me. Okie dokie. Now comes the super fun part where we get to add in the chocolate chips. Let's see. So see my Sam's size chocolate chips. And with these big ones, I usually add about 2 cups. Okay, I'll just mix those in. Okay, so now our chocolate chips are all mixed in. Now for the fun part. So I'm gonna go turn the oven on to 350, and then we are going to fill up our muffin cups, and we're gonna make some muffins. So hold please. All right, so I've got my muffin tins. So I've just got, it makes about 24, so I use two 12 cup something, whatever, two muffin pans with, makes 12 muffins. Just standard, not large, not mini. I mean, you can absolutely do it that way. But I just like to make them a little average size. And I got my cute little muffin cup holder. My mom got it off Amazon. Now it's time to fill. Okay, so now we've got all the batter in. Of course, they've made a little bit of a mess, but that's pretty normal for me. Normally I feel like I make even bigger mess, but it's okay. So now we've got our brown sugar chocolate chip topping, and really it's just going to be, I usually just take a spoonful into my hand, and then I go ahead and just sprinkle some on in there. This, again, you know, it's personal preference. You can put a lot, you can put a little. It really just depends on what you're feeling like. I definitely, I try not to go in too heavy-handed at first, just because I know there will be a little bit left once I go through all of them, and I like to make sure that, you know, they all get a pretty evenly loved scoop of the topping, just because I know that is one of the most treasured parts of these muffins. Typically, I would, before, well, usually at the end, but sometimes before I finish doing the topping and put these bad boys in the oven, I will give my son and husband a little taste of this brown sugar topping, because they like it cooked and they like it raw. They even will just eat it not in a mixture, they'll just eat brown sugar. So, so no biggie. Oops. All right, let me get these finished. So now I can go ahead and stick them in the oven like this, but I have gone through different things before where, you know, I just stick them in like this and I'll cook them, or I, because I've always had kind of wonky ovens, usually about halfway through cooking, I have to take them out, switch them around, turn them around, something just so everything cooks evenly. And there was a time that I accidentally smushed one, but it made it look extra chocolatey, and my husband really liked that. So there was a time where I would, when I take them out halfway, I would take a toothpick and just kind of swirl it. But for whatever reason, I guess I've gotten too lazy for that. So but I will still, I'm gonna go grab a toothpick And I'm just gonna, well, I'll show you. Let me go get a toothpick. Tiny toothpick. So instead of swirling it halfway through or just letting it cook like this and then having too much overflow or the brown sugar will end up all over the pan, what I do is I'm going to take the toothpick and I'm just going to kind of smush the brown sugar just down a little bit, just so it's kind of just not mixed in, but just smushed into the muffin dough itself. So that way it just, when it cooks, it just melts all together, as opposed to on top where you can still have excess falling off or melting over the pan or over the side or something silly. So I just kind of, I push it down so it's still, and you guys can hear that was like a blower outside. Probably our neighbor. Hello? Somebody's blowing. So yeah, so I'm just gonna go through. I'm going to pat all of this down, and then I am going to stick them in the oven. All right, give me just a second. I can hear it. The oven's ready. Now I hear lots of things. Someone blowing outside. The puppy is snoring. I don't think my son's taking a nap. Oh well. Okay. Excellent. So I've got brown sugar in my hands. Okay. Now I'm going to stick them in the oven, and at this point, so typically you would stick them in the oven and you can cook them for like 20-25 minutes. Like I said, I've always had wonky ovens, so I can typically get them cooked in about 14 minutes. So I'm gonna stick them in the oven, and then I'm gonna wait 7 minutes, and I'm gonna wait 7 minutes, and then I'm gonna flip them, and then they might need another minute or two, but we'll see, just because my oven tends to run hot. But let's get them in. All right, let's get these bad boys in. And then my trusty timer. Set a timer for 7 minutes.
Okay, 7 minutes and counting.
Okie dokie. I don't know if you can see me. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. So I'm gonna stick those in. They're gonna be in there for 7 minutes, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna switch them around, and then they might be ready and we can pull them out. Yay! Okay, so it's been 7 minutes, so now I'm gonna just switch them around. You can see they're looking yummy. So I'm just gonna cook them another 7 minutes, and if they need more time, I'll probably just rotate them. So let's give them another 7. Set a timer for 7 minutes.
Okay, 7 minutes and counting.
Okay. Okie dokie, so my oven went crazy, which I thought it might, because it does that sometimes. So I don't know if you can see the little temperature gauge, but it's well past 350. So it only took us a whopping 14 minutes to make these muffins, and that might have been even a little too long, but it's trial and error when your oven's a little wonky. Alrighty, let me bring you guys close up to see these bad boys. Alright, so yummy, yummy. So now at this point, I only had to cook them 14 minutes on 350, but it started at 350 and I think we ended up somewhere around 500. So if your oven stays at a nice 350, you will probably have to go at least, I mean, I would check them, but probably at least 20 minutes. So that's it. So now I usually let them sit in the pan for a few minutes. Typically, I mean, these have gotten a little brown, so I'll probably go ahead and pull them out a little bit faster. So I'll probably let them sit for a couple minutes, and then I will take them out. I'll let them fully cool down, and then I'll just store them Typically, I just put them in just, airtight container and they can stay on the counter for a week or so, or I will put them in freezer safe baggies and pop them in the freezer so that way whenever they're needed, just take them out, warm them up, and they taste fresh and delicious. So I hope you guys enjoyed either just watching make muffins or just chatting, or even if you were able to make the muffins alongside me, even though I might have gone a little fast, but at least you got the steps, you got the ingredients, you got everything you need. So thank you guys for joining me in the kitchen today, and maybe next time we'll come up with a workout, or I did get some new makeup to try, so I'm pretty excited about that. So, and also, as we see everything beautiful here, don't forget to subscribe, because you can click that little button down below. And even if you just want to give it a thumbs up, or even comment on if you tried the muffins, or if you just think they look delicious, or if you can smell them through the camera, yeah, I would really appreciate it. But I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.